might go out the next day and you call and all 10 bears come in. You never know what you're going to get with bear. I know guys that have gone out and the very first time they've called in bears and killed them. I know guys that have called for 3-4 years and never called a bear in. So you never know what you're going to get. It can be very hit and miss. When we go to call in bears, and Jody and I have called in bears on the coast before in the fall as well. We like seeing bears first, so you can see how they're going to respond. Sometimes when they hear a sound, they'll turn and they'll come right in. I mean, if you can see them and see how they're reacting, you know an aggressive bear when you see it. I mean, the hair stands up on their neck and their ears go back and they just...
On mine too.
Yeah. Especially when you're built. And the thing, you just know, okay, it's showtime. I mean, they're coming up and they're looking to kill you. And it's exciting. It's a rush doing that. Sometimes they'll do that and you'll see them start coming at you, and then they'll catch something in the wind, or they'll just start nibbling grass and they'll just forget about you. I mean, they go from being totally focused to hearing you and coming right at you. Oh, something's got my attention now. Now I'm going to go explore what this bird was doing over there. And no matter what sound you make, they won't come back. For that reason, I like to be able to see where bear are at, to be able to observe them, to know what sounds to make. A lot of times, if one sound gets them coming to the call and then they start wandering off, losing interest, that sound won't work anymore, I'm going to change that sound, but just to try to keep their interest, to keep them coming. Now that's where I can see them. If we can't see them, then I'm looking for sign. I'm looking for tracks, I'm looking for droppings, I'm looking for, where they've been eating grass along the road. You'll see it's been mowed down about an inch from the ground. I'm looking for fresh sign that tells me bear's in that area. And then I'll go in and cold call. That is calling without seeing the bear first. Does that work all the time? No, it's just like any hunting. Of course it doesn't work all the time. But it does work. We were on a setup one time and we called and we had 3 different bears come in at one time to a cold calling setup. It was thick stuff on the coast, but they came in. We knew there was a lot of sign there. Was hoping to get 1 bear come in, and 3 bears came in. Last year we were up on the coast of Alaska and called a bear in. This was a cold calling situation, and the thing came in a big boar, and the buddy stuck it. Bear was 7 foot 2 inches. He stuck it at 12 yards, and that bear was not leaving. That was a huge bear, and he shot him, made a good shot with his bow. And he was pretty excited.
Really?
Yeah, that was a big bear. That was pretty cool. But for calling purposes, what sounds do I make? Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes, and believe me, I'm not an expert at any of this. I'm just fortunate to spend my life doing what we love to do, hunting. And there's a lot that I am still trying to learn. The biggest mistake that I've found that I made when I started calling bears was calling too loud. When a fawn is born, they're this big, standing about this tall, and their lungs are about like this, and they're very weak. They don't have the vocal cord. If you've ever heard fawns bleeding when they've been born in the spring, it's very high pitched and it's very brief. Okay, it's not. They don't do that. They don't have the lung capacity to do that. This time of year in the spring, when a fawn is born and they're bawling, it's usually for one reason, and that's to locate their mom. A lot of times when they hit the ground, the grass is tall at that time of year. And so, they're standing down in the grass, they can't see a thing. They're trying to locate the mom or their twin, as the case might be, by way of sound. It's just nice little soft, high-pitched sounds. Just that's where if I can get into an area and see where a bear is at, that's the volume I'm going to start with. And if that's going to keep the attention of the bear, that sound right there we've called in more bears with than anything. If the bear is a little bit further out and we need to get his attention, then I'll just pick up the volume, but not real long, bursts. It's still going to be short bursts. Okay, and it's not a whimpering like I'm dying sound. Okay, it's just a little squeal of a locator sound. And that's all a fawn bleed is. If the calf elk are hitting the ground, you can do the same thing. They're a little bit long or a little bit larger, so they're going to have a little bit larger lung capacity. Okay, a little bit higher pitch than what your cow elk sound is going to be. Again, that's something that can be very, very effective. What else on calling? Wind. Do you play the wind with the bear?
I don't like turkeys.
Yeah. Do you play the wind with the bear? Sometimes I always set up to try to keep the wind in our favor. I always want that bear working in the wind. Sometimes it just doesn't matter. We've had bears come in and they've smelled us, and we've actually seen them where we have tracked them, or where they have tracked us, got on our trail and smelled us and come right into where we were at without even calling. But they smelled us and came to inspect us. So sometimes the wind matters, sometimes it doesn't. If you're in a situation where the wind shifts and you're stalking in on a bear, or you're calling a bear, and things you think it's going to blow apart. At elk, I've called in these 2 calls right here. We called in 49 bulls last year with these 2 calls, and we filmed every single one of them, from British Columbia to Idaho to Montana to Oregon. No, I didn't get to Oregon because we got hung up somewhere else. But we called in 49 bulls with these 2 calls right here last year. A lot of bulls, all the elk that I've called in over the years, I've never had an elk play the wind, and, wind us and come in and we've killed them or got a shot at. Bears are a different story. If they're tuned into a food source, if they're riled up and the adrenaline's going, they could care less what you smell like. Sometimes as soon as they catch a whiff of you, boom, they're out the door. It can be very hit and miss with bear. One of the calls I like, one thing I wanted to mention, so I will set up and try to keep the wind in my favor, but if it changes halfway through, I'm not going to quit calling if that's my only scenario for getting that bear in. Sounds. If I see a bear that's coming in and he loses interest, and I've started, okay, with a little high-pitched fawn bleat, and he loses interest, I'm going to switch that up. My favorite calls to use when calling bears are open reed calls. If you've never used an open reed call, they're easy. If I can use them, anyone can. They're just an open reed call. This one here is one that Jones Calls makes, and it's on a horn, a cow horn, and it's all custom made, handmade. I guarantee I wouldn't sell this call for $1,000 if you came up and offered it to me right now.
I'd sell mine.
Yeah. Keep them away.
He's not looking. I'll sell it.
I love these calls that much. It's a hard, sound chamber. It creates a very authentic sound. But one thing that I like about these is that they're easy to blow. And all you do is you can use your teeth or your lips to put pressure down on this reed, and you're moving it back and forth, and you're just creating different pressure points on this reed to get high and low pitched sound. So once you get the call, start on the point of the reed to get your high pitched sound, move it back to get your low pitched sound. So. And then start playing with it. And from there, if you can make that sound, you'll be able to master this call. It's easy. The further out on the end yard, you can get like your deer sound. Cottontail. I can move back a little bit towards the middle and get my calf elk. A little bit further back for a cow elk. Back further for a jackrabbit. One thing I love, a lot of times we've had bears in close, a lot of times when we're calling bears into a clearing. Now a lot of times what we do for TV is totally backwards from what you would do if you were really hunting. When we're out there shooting TV shows, we want to get the animal in so people can see it. So we're trying to defy a lot of odds that we shouldn't. And one is pulling a bear from timber into open country. And that's not a good thing. They don't like doing that a lot of times. I like calling within the timber if I can, because they like moving under the safety of cover. A lot of times we've had bear hang up on the periphery inside the timber, and they won't come out with all these calls. So my favorite thing to do at that point is I'll put a little bit of pressure here on the front end of this call, and I'll stick my tongue about 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch out in front of it and just blow. And it creates a distressed bird sound. And I don't know what it is. They say it simulates a woodpecker or a flicker, a distress call, which they do. But the bears love that sound. If you're ever hunting coyotes over east or anywhere in the Rocky Mountain State and see badger, that's the #1 badger call there is. I guarantee you, you'll call in more badgers with that than any other sound there is. It's phenomenal how aggressive they are. But they love it. So just with this little call right here, we just covered what, 6 different species of animals. Just with this
not
one
coyote
call. Yeah.
If you're cold calling, how often are you going to blow? How long are you going to stay there?
Good question. If you're cold calling bears, how long are you calling? How long are you going to stay there? For bears, I will call almost non-stop for an hour, and it's